All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Inside the Industry podcast. As always, my name is Caleb Johnson. I am your host, and today I have special guest with me, Coach Wells Gulledge. Coach, how you doing?
Caleb, good to see you, buddy. And listen, I can't thank you enough for having us on here today, bud.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for coming on. For those who don't know, Coach Gulledge is one of the most accomplished college basketball coaches in the state, and if not in the nation. He has over 400 career wins and 3 state championships, and that is just scratching the surface of what he has done. Coach, let's talk a little bit about how you found the game growing up in Rockingham, North Carolina.
Well, Caleb, to be honest with you, I grew up in a little town called Hamlet, but everybody says Rockingham because it's it has all the grocery stores and everything else, but just a really neat place to grow up. It was a railroad town. A lot of people worked for the railroad. So, when I was coming up, we had 13 or 14 people in the neighborhood. There were woods all around. We built forts. We made dunk goals. It was a good blend between the older generation or older guys that are 3 or 4 years older than you that used to whoop your tail and make you tougher as a player. There's some younger guys that you got to whoop their tail and do the same thing too. And you know what? It's a big Richmond County is a huge athletic driven school. If you look at all the football state championships, basketball has been also there, has been a mainstay as well. And even the baseball program. So I was around some of the best athletes in the state my whole junior high school career. So, those times I'll never forget. And when my son goes back there and we go back home to see my parents, he's like, "Daddy, I'll go back there and play at Richmond County." And I said, "Well, you better watch out because if you step on that floor, you're stepping into a different league." So, 2 years ago, they were in the state championship or 2 years ago is Paul McNeil. Paul McNeil plays at state now. That was their ringer. I think New Hanover actually clipped them to get to the state championship against North Mech.
With Isaiah Evans and
Isaiah Evans. And all those guys have been coming to camp down to the East Coast, so everybody knew one another. But Richmond County, Hamlet, North Carolina, Rockingham, North Carolina. Rockingham has got NASCAR back now, so it's just I grew up on NASCAR, going to the races and doing all those types of things, and I think NASCAR got too big for the britches and went after the money, but they forgot the homegrown, which it was based upon. So I was able to go back to the race a couple of weekends ago and had a great time. Took my son for the very first time. So nice. Richmond County is a neat place, but it's enriched with a lot of athletic history as well.
Gotcha. So what was your high school basketball career like? If you could give just a brief overlook of that.
Man, there were really no gyms open where we lived. So everything was played outside. We played on dirt courts. We'd go down to and play on the blacktop a lot in Rockingham and Hamlet. If you got there on Sunday, I've been there and not been chosen when I was little, but I stayed and I stayed and I stayed and I worked on my game and when nobody was out there. And then next thing you know, you start getting picked up about the third or fourth game. Then you keep working your tail off. Then you're the main guy out there. Then you start choosing people. And even if you do lose, you're the first one picked up. That's the goal of it. So those guys made me tougher. The older heads made me tougher. And that's what I really, really enjoyed. And personally, it was validation. It was validation for me. When you lost, to get picked right back up. So you're playing every game. So, that's how things kind of got started. We had to play. There wasn't really big AAU or anything travel at that time other than maybe Charlotte or Greensboro, and Raleigh had just started getting some of those things together. great high school career, had wonderful teammates. We made a couple deep runs my senior year, played for the Eastern Finals up at Minges. Lost to East Wake in the Eastern Finals. That was probably one of the toughest things to this day. And I tell all the guys on the team, I'm like, we went into Minges. Our first round game was against Kinston and Jerry Stackhouse, Chuck Jones, Charlie McNary, all those guys. We're up 21 on Kinston at halftime. Jerry comes out and explodes in the second half. You're looking out there and you see Dean Smith, you see Jim Valvano, you see Terry Holland, you see Cliff Ellis. You're seeing all the coaches the big coaches from the ACC and across the country coming to watch Jerry. Well, I got to watch Jerry pack his stuff up and go home that year. So, we pulled that one out. Minges was sold out. You couldn't even get in the doggone place. Then the next day we played East Wake, and they had a guy named Greg Ellis, defensive end for the Cowboys All-Pro. He was about 6'7", just a monster. He was a great player. They had another point guard who went to Seton Hall. His name was Jawan Tuck. Lost by 6. And to this day, there's not a day that goes by when I see a basketball, I'm like, you know what? You're this close, yet so far away. You know what I mean? And you just have to, the ball bounces crazy. And, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. I remember where I took my high school jersey off for the last time. I can remember when I took my college jersey off in the conference tournament at High Point University. Those are some tough days, man. Because that's some of the best times of your life, but those are tough times. And I don't forget them, those are special times, but, I think that's what kind of drove me into staying around the game and, really having those feelings and emotion and the love for it and the passion. I really feel that that's what drove me to stay, in this avenue along the way.
For sure. So you went to Lewisburg before you went to Mount Olive for college, correct?
Went to Lewisburg for 1 year.
Okay.
Played with Coach Enid Drake. Coach is still alive today.
Wow.
He's in his 90s. Coach, he coached almost 60 years there at Lewisburg College.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. What a Superman. Someday somebody's going to write a book about him, and because he was a phenomenal coach. Then I ended up going and playing 3 years at Mount Olive for Coach Bill Klingon, who still is a big part of my life even today. Just found a place where I could go and really loved it there. Met my wife there, and what a great university it's turned into. Mount Olive has just really, really grown over the years, and met a lot of really good people there. Sat behind an two-time All-American for 2 years before I got to really sniff it. You know what I mean? And that's there again, that helps me with kids today that just want to break camp and say, well, I'm not playing here. I'm just going to go to this school, or I'm going to transfer and go here. You know what? Just why don't you roll up your sleeves, get dirty, learn from the guy that's better than you, and accept that he's better than you, and just absorb everything and try to figure out how to stop him in practice. And I did that for 2 years. I put in my time to be able to play that last year. So, I do get it, because that's the way that kids are these days, but we've allowed that to happen. I think that starts at home, and it carries off when your home's not strong. It carries on to the next best thing. You're chasing the next best thing. I'm not talking about home as far as money or monetary. I don't care how big your house is. You can have a huge house, but the dinner table conversations are not discipline. And that's not discipline in school, not discipline in athletics, the whole 9 yards. The conversations aren't being had. Or you can have the smallest house in the world and have those conversations, and they're rich conversations. So It's not about any of that. It's just about the discipline of life, which we've got to get back to really ingraining in those kids. I try to do that with our programs. For the most part, if you leave our program and you've learned something that's going to help you in life, I feel like we've done our job. Just do right. That's our team rule. We don't have 25 rules saying you got to be on time. Well, if the rule is do right and you're late, I ask you, why are you late? Da, 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 da. Did you do right? No, sir. All right. Broke the rule. Consequence. So, do right answers a lot of different things. Even with my children, even with my kids, with the dishes put up. I said, why are those dishes still there? I forgot to do them. Did you do right? No, sir. Consequence. Take out the trash. Did you do right? Consequence. So, those two words are very powerful words when you apply them, because I believe that every human being knows the difference between right and wrong.
Absolutely. We all got a moral compass.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I agree to that.
So your hard work, sitting behind two-time All-American, landed you a one solid year of really getting to be the guy, and that landed you in the Mount Olive Hall of Fame. Talk about that a little bit.
That's a lot of, I think a lot of, it's not just playing in numbers. Mm-hmm. With that, I think it came down to, yes, I was a team captain. I think it came to be leadership skills. Also stayed along as an assistant coach for 2 years. Was there for 2 years with Coach Klingon. And I'm telling you, just those 2 years of helping him, I was already on the road recruiting. I recruited a lot of Prince George's community up in Maryland, the Maryland area, the Virginia Tidewater area was a place that I recruited to as well, and along with North Carolina schools that I knew a lot about. And, Coach just gave me basically the keys to be able to learn the inner workings behind practice. As a player, you really don't know how much your coach prepares for practice, day-to-day operations, especially coming in a D2 school. We had a secretary, but we shared our secretary with baseball and other sports. So we were part secretary, we were part custodial service. I mean, we weren't too proud. Laundry had to be done. We had some kids some managers that had scholarship money that would help out and do all those types of things. But Coach tried to run it as a Division I program as much as he could with the budget that we had. And that's what he instilled in me. So 2 years later, when the Jacksonville opportunity came and presented itself, I felt like I was ready. I was 24 years old, with a 4A head job at 24 years old.
Youngest in the nation or state at the time?
I don't know, man. The writers say what they do. I don't, know what I mean? I was a young dude, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot. Had some great, golly, those guys at Jacksonville believe, man. I just, we were able to instill that belief in those guys. They run through that wall. That was back when I could play a little bit too. And I'd get out there and play with them, and then exercise with them, lift weights with them, do those types of things. And they were 18, 17, 16. I was 24. I'm like their litter mate, but except on the discipline part. Now I was, I brought that collegiate discipline to the high school, but still was able to separate that with, blending in with them with different things. But they knew where that line was, because I laid that down, early with them. But those kids, man, I tell you, they just really, really responded, and we, took them to another level. has some really good players. I mean, Coach Jefferson, who's at Ashley right now teaching our drone class. I mean, he played for me at Jacksonville.
Did he really?
Yeah, he played for me at Jacksonville, and he's at Ashley with me.
I thought he played at Kinston with you. I didn't know that.
That's awesome. He was actually Coach Jefferson was a Jacksonville guy.
That's awesome.
And then we had some teammates of his, Jay Maynard. Jay went on to play at Winston-Salem State, but then he played in the Olympics for the Virgin Islands.
Really?
Yes, Jay played in the Olympics for the Virgin Islands. So, and wow. I talk to Jay all the time, which is really, really cool because the Olympics to me is the Mount Everest of the game, and because I love country. Then we had Jamal Schuler. Schuler went to VCU, had a great career there. He was on the team that beat Duke, in the NCAA tournament. And Schuler goes on overseas and plays upper division in Germany and France and Monaco. Has a great career, made a lot of money, and still probably has a lot of money because he wasn't seen on TV every day. People in America don't know that upper division over there in Italy and Monaco and overseas. And if you make that upper division, I mean, it's a very, very lucrative type of lifestyle. And then when he come home to America, oh, you playing overseas? Yeah, I'm still playing, and there's no handouts. Nobody's wanting anything from him because they don't think he has anything.
Yeah.
It's a different world over there. If you ever want to see great basketball, watch the European League.
Absolutely.
And watch those guys. Look at the passionate fans they have over there. It is incredible.
The energy is different.
Oh man, they've got fire, breathing fire, and they got dragons running through the crowd. You know what I mean? I mean, it is a spectacle, and that's for love of country too. There, you know what I mean? And then we've got the NBA. We got people coming in with their sushi, walking in halfway through a Lakers game, looking over there, waving at one another. They don't care anything about the game. It's all about the social activity. But you take your hind part to Europe and you're not yelling, you might get run up out of there.
Absolutely.
Especially that upper division. I love it, man.
They want to take their picture in the Staples Center and, post it on Instagram and say they were there.
Yeah, just say I was there. But, and it's like sitting on your hands. I mean, it's so boring until the playoffs begin. And now we've seen kind of the pick me up and now everybody's into it. But for 82 games, minus the first week, it's so boring.
You think it's too many games?
I do.
I don't disagree with you.
I do because the athlete has changed. I mean, look at LeBron, man, for him to do what, and listen, I'm not a huge fan of him because he was the first social media experiment when it first came out. Yeah. So, they were following him around in high school. So he is the founding father of the cult following through technology, in my opinion. And, along the way, he's done some really, really good things. Great thing about LeBron is guess what? You don't see him out there running around in the clubs and having articles written about him. He's a family guy. He just goes about that. Now, once he turns to the social media side and brings issues in that way, or when he gets out there and starts flopping around like a wet fish, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm just I work for everything I had. You were the same. Think about it. You had to work your tail off twice as hard as everybody else. Because I remember it. We weren't the most talented guys in the room. So we had to use angles, had to use heart and passion just for somebody to recognize us. And I get it, man. But now it's about that almighty dollar. So they can't afford to drop down to 50 games because they're going to be missing 32 games of all that revenue.
Yep. And the TV money.
Yeah.
That's the big kicker.
That's it in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell. But, you know, it is what it is. And it stripped the purity of it away. And it breaks my heart sometimes to see it that way. It does.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I got to see some of the golden ages, but I'm gonna kind of reel it back in just a little bit. I got two questions for you.
All right.
The first one is how did you know you wanted to become a coach? Is that something that you've always done? And then the second one, or always wanted to do? And then the second one is when people talk about you, and I know from experience and I know from being around guys, is when people talk about you as a coach, they talk about you as a player's coach. Being so young and being able to get on the court and lift with those guys at Jacksonville, did that kind of help you develop that trait, I guess, in a way? Or is that something that was always instilled in you?
That was just me getting, graduating from college, just 2 years removed, still had my body, still had my strength, and still love to play. And then Father Time comes along and will let you know when it's time to put it down. But as far as being a player's coach or whatever it may be, I just think that it all comes down to relationships and what you do. Along the way, it's some are going to love you, some are and I try to buy in and I try to pour into everybody that I can. And along the way, sometimes you're going to tell that kid no. And it's not that you think anything less of that kid. That's the hardest thing, man. The hardest thing in coaching is the most exciting day in coaching is the first day of the year. And then 2 days later, it's the worst time of the year when you have to tell a kid, listen, we've only got X amount of uniforms. And then, sometimes guys don't understand. You've got to kind of build, you've got to plug in. Like this year, I went against everything that I've done previously, and we went senior heavy. And I feel like I wasted a couple of sophomores that probably deserved at least 2 spots where we were. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now we're not, instead of losing 9 kids, you would only lost 7, and those 2 sophomores that were placed, those 2 seniors would have more experience coming into this year. So it's you're plugging and playing everything with those types of things. I even know pretty much if I don't know who's coming up in the middle school, then I'm probably not doing my job. So I'm even thinking back to over to Murray. Who are those guys that are at Murray? And on the south end, you know how it is. We have guys that are just blue collar workers that love to just get out there and grind it out. Probably don't stick out to anybody in any other gym. May not make a roster at a Hoggard or a New Hanover. May not make Laney. So we just want to take passionate guys that love to play and get them geeked up about it and treat them right. And, that's part of it. And you hate to say, we're going to go into this year. You always want to say, we have an opportunity to win a conference championship. We have a chance to win a state championship. And you want to talk about those things. But at the end of the day, if your shooting percentage is 22% and you're shooting 54% from free throws, and you got guys over there and they're peeing down their leg when they're at the free throw line, and they're not comfortable in front of crowds because at the rec center, there's only 4 bleachers high. You know what I mean? So, and guys hadn't been in that situation before. But listen, Ashley, I coach, I hold guys accountable to the same time runs that we did at Kinston. We run our program just like we would have at Kinston. It's the whole 9 yards. And we started at Jacksonville, transformed it into Kinston, and brought it, from Parrott and even to here. And that's the way it's going to be till they run me out of there. That's for sure. But talking about what I wanted to do as far as coaching, I was working out after the season got over with. Like I said, we lost our last game at High Point University to High Point in the conference championship, the conference semis. That game was over with. We were pretty tore up. Coach did a good job about bringing us in. He gave us about a week to sit back and just kind of process everything. And then he'd start bringing in the seniors, and we'd have individual meetings. And then, we would be the ones that were going. Then he'd bring in the underclassmen and talk about the future and re-signing and things like that. You don't get a 4-year scholarship. You sign a scholarship each year. That's the way it was then.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the way it always was until NIL came along. So your scholarship went year to year. It wasn't a 4 or 3 year kind of deal. It was, look, you got to, and which was great because you signed a national letter of intent, which tied you to that school for at least 365 days, and you had to if you didn't get permission to be released. So let's just say I want to transfer to UNC Pembroke, and I was going to transfer to UNC Pembroke. Pembroke could have wanted me, but if Coach Klingon didn't release me, then I'd have had to sit out a year. So there were some provisions put in place to stop kids from jumping around like we see today. But after the fact, Coach brought me in, and I can remember, man, my dad was law enforcement. He was an inspector with the Department of Motor Vehicles. My brother's the sheriff in Richmond County. He's 5 years younger than I am. He's a young sheriff. He definitely has his hands full. But so my family's law enforcement. I was in great shape. When I would go home, I would work out with a guy named Dale Defoe, who was he was a defensive tactic instructor with the State Highway Patrol, and that's where I was going. I was going to go to the State Highway Patrol. Was gathering the paperwork, was working out, doing a lot of running. Coach sat me down and said, Wells, he goes, I want you to stay with me and help coach. He said, I don't have a whole lot of money to give you, but I can give you a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom. He goes, I just feel like you can be a great coach. And when he believed in me that way, that was all it took. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was hooked. Paperwork gone. Started eating cookies again. So that's kind of where everything went from there, man. My mindset just completely turned just by having my coach believe in me to even give me an opportunity to be with him on the floor and instructing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just learned so much, and then behind the scenes type stuff. And then the Jacksonville job opened up, and it was a full-time deal with retirement and the whole 9 yards. And when I told Coach about it, he said, you've got to take that job, as much as I don't want to see you go, because, Coach was kind of trying to groom me to, I don't know, it was, I think he could see me moving at higher levels. He could see something in me that I couldn't see for myself. But at the end of the day, man, I was eating oodles and noodles and cans and not making a whole lot of money as a D2 assistant. And, this gave me a chance to start and have a pension, get into teaching, and to really start my career. So that's kind of how everything kind of evolved to getting into Jacksonville.
That's an awesome story. I didn't know that you were planning on going into law enforcement. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk Kinston now. So in 2001, if I'm not mistaken, you take the job at Kinston. You're there for 11 years. You win 3 state championships in 5 years, a 274-55 overall record. You put countless guys in college, overseas. You put 3 guys in specifically, Reggie, Bullock, Herbert Hill, and Brandon Ingram into the NBA. And you put 2 guys into the NFL, Quentin Couples and Derek Rivers. Talk about what it means to be the head basketball coach at such a established and polished program like Kinston.
Hey, it's the real deal. I mean, it is something that you walk into that if you've got to have duck feathers, because the water's got to roll off that back, buddy, because you're sitting up in there every night and there's 1,500 coaches in there. And if you make a mistake, they're going to let you know about it. Hell, if you're even doing good, they're going to let you know about it in a negative way. I mean, there's 1,500 coaches in there. I mean, but it's amazing. I mean, it was an amazing time of my life. And just being there with the first couple of years, that, you know, my first year there, I feel like was one of the stronger teams. I'm not going to say it was the best, but it daggum sure isn't too far off of it. We were 6'9" and 6'10", across the back line, 6'4" point guard, 6'6" shooting guard. Who else was on that group? I mean, we were 6'7". Oh my gosh, 6'7". So our starting lineup then was Jeremy Ingram, who went to Wake Forest first before transferring to East Carolina. He was a junior, 44-inch vertical, jump out of the gym.
Good Lord.
Yes, Jeremy could jump, slam up out the gym. I mean, one night he hit the back of his head on the backboard blocking a shot. He jumps over a guy like a Vince Carter. He jumps over a guy and dunks on a guy during Summer League. Jeremy was a great athlete. Then we had David Lawson on one of our wings. David was 6'6", shooter, ended up being one of our assistant coaches on the state championship team. David, I'll tell him this right now. He was just slow. You know, he's slow of foot, but he could stroke it. We had on the other wing, we had Corey Rouse. Corey was 6'7", super athlete, already committed to East Carolina. I think Corey could have gone to the ACC and played. Went to Europe for multiple years. The back line, we could put Dodson Worthington, who was 6'10", ended up playing at Columbia. Just a really cerebral guy. I mean, just knew the game, everything. And then Herbert, 6'9", 6'10", Herbert Hill, ends up going to Providence College, then ends up being second-round draft pick of the 76ers. I mean, we're cutting through everybody like a chainsaw. There wasn't even a close game. I felt bad because we couldn't give our guys – we're up 50 in first halves, you know, and the problem is you don't want to embarrass people. You know what I mean? Some of these colleagues of yours that you're going and you've got them down 50. You go to the second half and you play a zone and you start playing the bench. But with that, what starts happening is your starters are losing their averages and things like that. And at that time, it was important. It just started where the rankings and things like that came into play. So. But I never embarrassed. I don't think I ever embarrassed a colleague in the game that way. We were always respectful. We'd go to a zone. I would sub. The whole bench normally played in 80% of the games in the first half.
Wow.
Then we get to the sectional finals, and Dodson, the 6'10" kid that went to Columbia, went up for a layup, lands on his heel, jams his back. I mean, he was our middleman in the press, the whole 9 yards. We ran a 1-3-1 and it covered sideline to sideline.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. With
our size and our length. We had Corey at the point at 6'7". We had Jeremy at 6'4" with that vert running the back line. Then you had 6'6" and 6'9" out there on the wings, and you had 6'10" in the middle. And we just ran up against a team that had two D1 guys that had the game of their lives that night. We lost Dotson. He wasn't able to play. So we're switching everything up because this other team was just, they had two bigs too. They had two 6'9" kids too. Down at the end of the game, we're down two. Corey got a breakaway and he tried to tear the rim down in Minji's with less than 2 minutes to go. And he goes up and dunk it and it hit the back of the rim and it almost hit the scoreboard, So, and then Jeremy's a great shooter. I think he was like 2 for 9 that night, and then had a chance to win it in the corner 3 on an out of bounds play. It just wasn't our night, but it's one of the best teams, but it just wasn't our night. So you've got to have a little luck along the way. You got to stay healthy. You got to be a little bit lucky and a little bit good to make that next step. But then we had teams start to roll in, and there's so many kids in Kinston. If I start naming everybody, because they're all dear to my heart, every single one of them are so dear to my heart, even to this day. We had great teams with no names. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had great teams that some people, they knew their names as we got going and started sticking it to other people's hind parts. Michael Jenkins is another one who went to Winthrop, played overseas for many, many years. I think he had 14 years over there. Great career. Of course, Herbert was with that first team. Then Quentin comes along, and Reggie. So Quentin and Reggie were on the same team. Reggie was a freshman. Quentin was a junior. That was 2007. We went to the state championship and lost it to Concord. So we lost to Concord by 6, I think it was. Great game. There again, ball could have gone either way. It could have gone either direction. Well, we come back the following year, and Quentin ends up going to Fork Union because of football. And I'm like, golly, man, we lost a stud, because Quentin was about 6'6", probably about 250, 260 at that time, and could run. He broke a backboard in practice at Kinston. Just as a 9th grader, broke the doggone backboard. Wow. Our boys were running out of the gym left and right. It was a chaotic scene. But the next year we do go back. So Reggie is a sophomore then. We go back and we're able to win it that year. So we lost it in 2007, won in 8, 10, and 12. And along the way, a lot of people don't know that Bo Ingram, who was Brandon's brother. Bo played with Reggie. Bo goes he's the co-player of the year, Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of North Carolina, his senior year, with Ty Walker, from the 6'11" kid from New Hanover. He ends up going to a JUCO out in Texas, who a friend of mine was coaching out there, and ends up playing at Texas Arlington.
Okay.
Which that university is growing because it's right outside of Dallas. Old money. And it's blowing up. Bo had 22 points against Kansas that year.
Wow.
And but that's Brandon's brother.
Mm-hmm.
So we win it with that crowd in 2010. 8. Win it with that crowd in 8. And then the next thing you know, we were Adidas through Jerry Stackhouse then, and then Nike comes in. So Nike comes in, and I'm not talking about these deals that our local high school teams have and say, oh, we're a Nike school, we're an Under Armour. No. This is one team in the state of North Carolina with a Nike contract. All right. Mm-hmm. They supplied us everything for free. Travel bags, sweatsuits, running shoes, 4 pairs of basketball shoes. This stuff came directly from Beaverton.
Wow. So, the whole 9.
The whole 9. Tony Dorado was head of their grassroots program, and he'd always send an email, and it just basically said, what do you need? And here's the checklist. I'd check off on there what we needed or felt like what we needed to have for the year. 2 weeks later, I mean, my whole office is full of boxes. It's over $12,000 worth of just equipment in there, and these kids are sucking this in. But then Nike sends us, we go play in an event. We went to Hawaii for 9 days. My daughter took her first steps on Waikiki Beach. We played in the Alani Classic out in Honolulu. I took some boys from downtown Kinston, and we went out to Hawaii. And we had to, and I'm telling you, and we had, some people in the community went. The superintendent's son was on the team. We fly out to Hawaii. We're out there for 9 days. These boys, I tell you, man, if I could tell you these stories. Well, Reggie fills me in on the stories, but when we first get out there and we go check into the hotel, there are all these like 3-wheelers that you sit back in and you drive, and you get Batman and Robin, you got somebody in the seat, and all these scooters and everything. And I stopped in the lobby. I said, I'm going to tell y'all something. Y'all are not renting any of that. If I catch anybody on that, we're going to have a problem. The next morning, I remember we ate at the Alani coffee shop. That's where we went and ate every morning. We just signed our ticket. I come around the daggum corner. Here comes Bullock flying around the corner in one of those 3-wheelers. Next thing I know, Bullock comes around. Then, our whole team starts coming around. And I'm pissed off. I'm madder than hell. I'm waiting for the team meeting at 10 because I'm about to drop the hammer. But here's the problem. Damn superintendent comes. He's right behind them. So the superintendent is the one that pretty much, he said, boys, let's go have some fun. And I'm going, I just told those guys not to, if I caught them on there, but he didn't get that gist of that. And here they come by there, and I'm good and pissed off, and here comes the superintendent, and I'm looking right there. I didn't even wave. So I couldn't do anything about that. But what a great experience for those kids, man. We got to take them to Pearl Harbor, and we were there on December the 9th. It was 2 days after the 7th. So the Japanese consulate had sent flowers and stuff like that. We went there, man. We played in the hoop hall. That was a great. That Alani Classic is one of my favorites. We fly back home. We've got 2 days, and then we're playing it's the John Wall now, but it used to be the GlaxoSmithKline. So we fly back from Hawaii. We get 2 days. We're dead dog tired. Then we play in the GlaxoSmithKline. Played really well. Got to the finals. We're playing Rice out of New York City. They were loaded. We had a 1-point lead. Reggie had just scored, called a timeout, set the press. And they came down in our press. Our point guard let the ball get into the middle of the floor, and their 6'7" guy goes up. Him and Reggie go up at the same time, right inside the top of the key. Buzzer goes off. Reggie's hand is right. I mean, it's right here. I thought the guy shot an air ball. I was jumping up and down. I thought we had just won it. It went in. It was just a swish. It was up so high and came down. That was a backbreaker. Well, you don't have time to cry over spilt milk on that, because you come back, play two conference games, move one from Friday to Thursday, then you're flying out to go to Springfield, Massachusetts, to play in the hoop hall. So that's where we played, where Naismith invented the game of basketball. He was a PE teacher there. Mm-hmm. So we fly into Boston. We get on the big charter bus. We charter up, and we're staying right beside the Naismith Hall of Fame. And it happened to be the year Jordan was going in. Wow. And everything on the second floor of the Naismith Hall of Fame, everything, the whole floor was dedicated to Michael Jordan. Everything in there, from the letter that from Coach K to all of Coach Smith's stuff, Laney's stuff was in there. I mean, it was the whole second floor was dedicated to Michael Jordan because he was going into the Hall of Fame that year. Our kids had that. To me, there again, same year, same experience, unbelievable. But we did beat a team out of Washington State pretty handily, and we got to play with a shot clock. Now, the reason why I say that is because I learned the game through my coach in college, the way I coach. And a lot of our stuff, and you know what it is, are quick hitters that take within 20 seconds to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if they ever put a shot clock in high school athletics, which may be coming, we're going to be in a good spot because a lot of our stuff is based off shot clock type stuff. So our philosophy was, you know what? We're going to play 20 seconds. Everybody on the bench counted down. We're going to play. We put a soft press on them. They got across half court with about 21, 22 seconds to go. And the bench counted down from 20, 19, 18. And we released hell for 20 seconds on the defensive end because that shot clock was going to run down. And in their minds, those guys in their minds are like, hell, I only got to play defense for 20 seconds and get a rebound. Now we get to go back on offense. So that's how we adjusted to the shot clock. You know, we really believed in that 20 seconds of defense, and that got us there. Man, there's so many places we went with our guys. Peoria, Illinois, during Thanksgiving. These kids were away from home for the first time. We got 6-7 inches of snow playing in Peoria. It's like the movie Hoosiers, man. They got the mayor serving turkey. We're up there, and all the top players during Thanksgiving were there. We played and we won that. We won that at Washington High School. City of Palms in Florida. We played, I think it was St. Benedict. It's freaking Bobby Hurley. No, excuse me, Danny.
Yeah.
Danny. So we're playing Danny. PSE comes out there. He's got 2 bookends. It's Tristan Thompson.
Oh, my gosh.
And another 6'9" dude out there. And, I mean, place is packed at the City of Palms. Everybody's packed in there. Danny's running around like an absolute madman.
As he does.
Right, he's in front of the scores table, and I'm pretty laid back when it comes to stuff. That cat's in front of the scores table. He's out there at half court. That's when things are going wrong. And then when things are going right, he's just sitting back watching. Hell, I'm sitting back watching because there's nothing I can do. We've already prepared for these guys. Second, I think we were down 11 or 12 at halftime. They were top 2 in the country. I think we were top 25. And came out in the second half. We came out, played really well. I think Reggie hit a couple threes. Man, we cut that thing to 6 points. And you ain't never seen an individual go crazy. He was stomping around there, running around the gym, couldn't get a call, hands in the air, pulling his hair out. That's why he doesn't have any hair, because he did have hair and he was always up here with it. That's why mine's falling out too. That was so much fun. I think we ended up losing by 11 that game. They just kept punching it inside to Tristan and those guys, you know, late in the game. And I can remember Danny coming up. He couldn't even have to talk. Coach, that's a hell of a team. You got a hell of a team. Hell of a game. Y'all guys busting our ass. And man, that was so. I went back in the locker room talking to our assistant. I'm like, that guy's crazy as hell. You know, he's nothing like his brother. He is nothing like Bobby. He's more like his dad. But you know, those are the experiences, man. I wish I could share. I can share with you on here. I don't gloat that stuff too much, man. I just, you know, those are experiences that I had. And this is my little office in here. So this is where I work on the East Coast. I work on a bunch of stuff. I bet I'll have 6 or 8 just big tubs full of all kinds of accolades, everything, ring. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, this is my wife's house, right? I learned this from Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis had some guys over one time, and we're like, Coach, where's all the Carolina stuff? He goes, it's put up. I said, then your pro stuff is put up. He goes, that part of my life is over with. When we built this house, my wife designed that. It's my wife's house. So and it may be different today, but when you walk into Coach Davis's house, you won't find Knicks jerseys and all that type stuff laying everywhere. You just won't find that. But you walk into Coach Williams's house, it's everywhere.
The walls are painted Carolina blue.
Listen, when you go into Coach's house, when you go into Coach Williams's house, he's got all his rings, but nothing's really organized. He's just got all this stuff sitting on the floor, just all these nice things that people have sent him. You know, you can't even walk into that office area because it's just memorabilia. And I'm talking about high dollar type stuff too. You know, it's all his rings from Kansas and everywhere else. There's no telling what that room is worth. But he's got his room with all his stuff just stuffed in it. Coach Davis doesn't have anything, and that's kind of where I kind of got that from. All my stuff's in the attic. All my stuff's in the attic. Reggie's USA jersey's in the attic. He don't know where it's at. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
it's in
awesome.
the attic. His Parade All-American plaques in the attic. I've got a big old tub full of his stuff. McDonald's jerseys, all that stuff are in the attic. And now that he's got his island in Belize, which we go to every summer now, I'm going to take it to him. I told him I have it. He just needs to find a way to ship it down there. Hopefully the tariffs aren't too high.
Talk about your special relationship with Reggie, because I know you guys are real tight. So I want to hear some more about that.
You know, Reggie had a tough one. He had a tough time. I don't think he ever needed or wanted it for anything. He lived with his grandmother most of the time. His grandmother was such a sweet lady, Miss Williams. And when I got to Kinston, I always like to keep I like to know who's coming up. Man, I'd go to the rec center games on Saturdays. I saw this little joker probably when he was in about the 5th grade. And you just look, and then the next thing you know, you're watching him, and he goes to the 6th grade. He gets to middle school, and he's different. He's just different, and you know it. So I keep watching him, and I go on my best friend came to town, and he was in the 7th grade then. My best friend comes to town. Night, baby. My best friend comes to town. I said, I'm going to take you somewhere. This is where Jerry Stackhouse grew up playing basketball. It's called Holloway Gymnasium. It's right down from Rochelle, the middle school, where everybody played. I said, I'm going to take you down here to this rec game, and I want you to see this kid. You can't even get in the building. There are people, there's hundreds of people just outside, couldn't get in, mad. Police are all down there. So I go to the back door, I knock on it. Coach Skeet Davis, one of my buddies who ran it. Come on in, Coach. Come on in. I got your spot right here. And me and my buddy Trey, we go in there. And standing room only in a rec game on a Saturday morning. You know what I mean?
That's
Everybody's
unreal.
out to watch this kid. Comes down 35-foot three. Boom. Comes down again. Crosses it over. Pulls up at the free throw line mid-range. Boom. And the next thing you know, this dude gets up in the top of the passing lane, tips it out, gets a run out, and he just takes this thing and cocks it back and took off. And he hammered it. And everybody in the gym got up, started running out, running on the floor. The floor was packed. The game's still going on. And my friend said, man, who's that kid? I said, he's the next one. He's the next one. And so at that time, he was playing for Perry Tyndall. So Perry was at the coach at Kinston now. he was at the middle school at the time, but we were just waiting to get a teaching position at Kinston, and he was going to come with me. But it really worked out great because Perry being at the middle school, we could implement our system early. What we were trying to do, which was huge. I mean, that was huge for us as building a program. So Perry finishes up at the middle school with those guys, and Reggie comes across. But the biggest thing is Perry got a P job, and there was one game I went to, so I'm there, and I'm like, I go over to Coach, and I said, PT, I said, man, where's Reggie? He said, man, he ain't playing today. He said, it's Wednesday. Grandma making him go to church. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, he can't practice on Wednesday. He can't come to games on Wednesday. And I'm going, oh, Lord. I said, I got to go see Grandma because this is 8th grade. So he's getting ready to come up. We're about to have him the whole summer, going into the ECI and then for the next 4 years. So I told Reggie, I went up to him. I said, listen, man, I'm going to have to talk to your grandma about those Wednesday practices. He goes, I know, Coach. I mean, daggone, this is high school. She got to give me some grace, something. He goes, yeah, he goes, you come down. So I went on down to the house, went down to Carver Courts, and there's Miss Williams. She's sitting at the table waiting on me. I mean, waiting on me. And I go in there, and I sit down with her. And I just got real with her. I just said, your grandson, I said, is special. He's going to have a chance to play at the next level, and he's going to have a chance. He's still in 8th grade now. I'm begging for this going in. I just want to prepare myself in the 9th grade, and I'm telling her this. I basically am telling her, he's going to be able to do this for his life and make a living at it. And she looked at me like, doesn't matter. And I said, Miss Williams, I said, I know that he doesn't practice or play on Wednesdays. But I said, when he gets to this high school, he's really going to need to be there on these Wednesdays. Now, I can tell you something now, Miss Williams. I said, I'm a man of faith myself. I'm a Christian man. And I'll do everything I can to catch him up on anything that he needs. I said, but there's going to be some days that he won't be there. Now, I'll make sure he's at choir practice because he's singing. I say I'll make sure he's at choir practice or the praise and worship team on Sunday afternoons because we can't practice on Sunday now, Miss Williams. Boy, and she looked me up and down. It's the first time we met, and I was just telling her kind of how I see things going for the next couple of years. And she reached her hand out. I remember that old hand. She grabbed my hand. She said, I'm going to have to trust you to take care of what you said if this is going to be. I said, yes, ma'am. I said, I will keep you abreast through everything. And I walked out of there and I was like, man, what an angel she was. Because she was the preacher at the church.
Was he really?
Oh, yes. And Reggie was on the praise and worship. I mean, it was, I mean, he can tell you the names, he can spit the names of the Bible right now within 30 seconds, straight through, right now. And so we got her blessing and, things started to go from there. I think it was his 11th grade year. It was Halloween, and I remember, and I've always opened my house. I'm just like, listen, any of you guys need anything, you're always welcome. You just got to call me. Any of you guys are in a situation to where you're at a party or whatever, and you don't feel comfortable calling, don't drink and drive. Don't put yourself in those type. I might not be happy, but you can call me. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I'll come get you. And I can remember his Halloween night, his 11th grade year, his grandma had diabetes, and she was kind of in and out of the hospital a lot then. And she was kind of going downhill. And so she wasn't there. And I can remember she was in the hospital, and I can remember Reggie calling and said, "Hey, Coach," he said, "You don't mind if I stay with you tonight, do you?" I said, "No, buddy." I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm at home." He goes, "You don't mind coming down and get me, do you?" I said, "No, I'll come get you, buddy." Got in my car, went down there. It was Halloween on steroids. Them cats were down in there, buddy. I mean, they wanted fireworks. There were 9mm going off down there. And Reggie just didn't feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a tough area now.
Mm-hmm.
And me being in a tough area, everybody knew my blue truck, or I wouldn't be going into the tough area. You know what I mean? Because you go down there, you go down there at a certain time of night, you might not come out of there. So I went down. I got out my truck, went and got him, spoke to half of the student body on my way in. He had his big satchel with him, and brought him back. And my wife and I didn't have any children at the time. And we had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but it had a loft like upstairs that overlooked a huge living room. It was a townhouse in Kinston at the time. So there's a bedroom up there and an office, and that's where he stayed. And Reggie, you know, he just wanted to feel safe. I guess he just, that night, he took and dialed that number. And his grandma was in the hospital, so he ended up staying a lot of time, you know, at the house, even into his senior year. Now he'd go home and from time to time with his grandma, and on the weekends he would, you know, he'd go out and hang out because East Carolina, there's a lot of friends that are up in the Greenville area, and he was playing AAU. He still owes me a ticket from taking to CP3, and we thought we were late, and I got pulled over and got a ticket. And then they didn't even have the gym open when we got there. So I let him know all that stuff all the time. But, you know, I didn't love him. I don't love him. I mean, Reggie and I's relationship are different than most of the other guys just because of what his grandmother kind of went through. And, you know, I was kind of the bearer of bad news. I'm like, you know, he's going into his freshman year at Carolina. I mean, his grandma was so sick she couldn't even take him. She couldn't even ride with us. I mean, we moved him in. He was roommates with Kendall Marshall, John Henson. Let's see, it was Reggie, Kendall, John, and Harrison Barnes.
That's a group.
What a group. Yeah, all of them are pros. And we were in there, and that's the night we went to Coach Williams' house and as a family and you know, had dinner and that type of stuff. But we moved him in, and you know, it's just like having a kid. We just went out and my wife goes out and gets his comforters, and she gets with Kendall's mom and Harrison's mom, and they go out shopping for the boys. They want it to smell good in there and this, that, and the other. And you look in John Henson's room, it'll look like that thing had been turned upside down and shook. There's oodles and noodles that have been sitting there probably for 2 weeks, you know, and all the moms are in there cleaning everything up. And I'm telling you, I didn't go back. I never went back to see it because they kind of moved into some different areas. But this was straight across from the Smith Center. So we went through that process with him. I never went to too many of his games because of our schedule. But we talk after every game, and we talk, you know, a lot about those types of things. What I would do is I would go up when they had the kickoff at the beginning of the year. What was that called? It's Midnight Madness or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Late Night with Roy at that time. I can remember that Stuart Scott was one of the MCs that night, which was really, really cool.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, man. I remember meeting him, and what a super guy that guy was. Loved Carolina, loved his family. And then, you know, everything starts going. Everybody's lives start going. We're checking in and doing different things. And that's when I like to go up there. I think I went to 2 games his 3 years. That's it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Just, just trying to take care of our guys too. You know what I mean?
Got a lot on your plate at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But, then, the draft process. Well, let me back up. His freshman year at Carolina, and I kept my pulse on his grandmother, when he was home, and I'd go visit her. And I went up there one time, and she wasn't looking too good. And Reggie, I had to have that conversation with him. I'm like, Reggie, things don't look good, and I just want you to know that your grandmother probably won't be on this earth for very long. It wasn't a 2-week kind of deal, but I just wanted him to know that anytime he could get home, and was free, that he might want to come and stick his face in, because I don't want him to have any regrets on that.
Yeah.
She did end up passing. I think it was the end of his freshman year. So it did happen quicker than we expected. And the funeral was back in Kinston, and Coach Williams and everybody came. And I mean, it was a sad time, for all of us. But then the draft comes, and we put on a draft party for him. It was kind of sad because I wanted Miss Williams. That was to be part of that, but she saw it from just a different level. She saw it from above. And then that comes around draft night, and on the phone with the agent and all that stuff, and the picks are coming through. Reggie's getting nervous, and I could tell, and he had to go use the bathroom. And then I think it was the 25th pick, first round comes up, but it was on like the 23rd pick. And my phone rings, and it was his agent, and says the Clippers are going to take him with the 25th pick. I go running. He's not in the room. There's hundreds of people in there. I'm running out around. I go in the bathroom. He's not there. That's where he said he was going to be. He was out in the gym doing something. I mean, he was just by himself, just thinking. I said, man, you need to come on in here real quick. You don't know what's going to go on. You can't miss this right here. So he comes in, and as he's walking in, and he sits down, and it says, with the 25th pick, I remember David Stern saying, the LA Clippers select, and then all hell broke loose, and just going through that process of him, his agent, going through, draft camps with him and all that stuff. Man, I learned so much on that side of the ocean and that side of the field, just going through that, which I'm glad I was, able to be part of it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And that's an experience I'll never forget. And now that joker had a great career, had a wonderful, wonderful career, and bought him a 5-acre island out in the middle of the Caribbean Sea in Belize.
Living life.
It is gorgeous. It's one of the best diving. It is. It's one of the top diving islands because of the coral around his whole island in Belize.
Wow.
And he's built a nice home there. He's built huts there. He's got a basketball court. So basically it's going to be his business. So you can go. It's going to be expensive because of all the amenities and how nice it is. I mean, you go stay in his house, infinity pool, all that type stuff, some of the best snorkeling. It's like when you go snorkeling down there, man, it's like finding Nemo, purples, yellows, just the deepest of greens. Then you might see a barracuda looking through a rock. I mean, it can get kind of sketchy, or you'll see a Nerf shark or whatever. But, man, we go down there and we run a basketball camp. I help him out with the local kids, and that's special to me. I love giving back to that community. Super, super people. Been down there the last 2 years, looking to go back probably this summer. So yeah, that's kind of the relationship that we have still to this day. It's special. Always will be for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. We're sitting at about an hour and 10 minutes right now, so a little bit over what we were thinking. I got one more question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't want to
You got to edit, or we might have to do part 2.
Hey, we can do a part 2 if you want to do a part 2.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in whenever you want to talk, man. I love doing this. I love doing this.
Perfect. All right, so one more question, and we'll wrap it up, and I'll let you get on with the rest of your night. What is your advice to people who are looking to get into coaching and people who are looking to get into working inside of the sports industry?
I think the biggest thing is the networking system, right? So if you're wanting to get into coaching, the biggest thing is that you don't have to be your best high school player. You don't have to be a collegiate player. If you're a student of the game and you love the game, I would highly suggest, and I did this. I would go work basketball camp. So like I'd go work Campbell's basketball camp during the summer. That's how, when we played, we made money during the summer. We go work camps. UNC Charlotte, North Carolina State, Campbell's basketball camp. So once you get there and you start doing that, then you start gaining that network system. Guys, I think our East Coast Invitational is a great platform with all the coaches that are there to come and work, whether it's in broadcasting, whether it's looking to get into coaching and picking those coaches' brains. You know what I mean? Just sit like we're doing tonight, just sitting down and talking about the processes. As you start to build those relationships, then maybe you start to keep in touch with that coach, or you live in that area, you start to volunteer. You know what I mean? Once you start volunteering, maybe you became a paid coach. Maybe you take over the JV program. Maybe you even start at the middle school. Coach Prosser at Wake Forest started at the middle school. Then he was JV coach. Then he was the high school coach. Then he was assistant. Then at Xavier, then he was head coach. So that's how it starts. I was very fortunate. Man, I was thrown into it at 24. That's the Lord blessing me, saying that's where you're supposed to be. That doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, especially in high school sports, is to get in there and do some volunteering, get your network system going. When you figure out where you're going to live, if you're going into teaching, that's easy. If you get a job, get a P job or whatever it may be, or even if you just get a teaching job, always look and help for coaching. You know what I mean? So that would be my thing, is just go volunteer. And then once you volunteer, you work yourself in, then it becomes a little paid position. Then you start to get paid a little bit for it. Then you start creating your schedule of contacts, and then everything else kind of takes over for it. And that's the way you go into the process. But you got to be patient with the process. So many guys want to go in and do it their way. Learn from the guy that's there. Like me, I'm probably out of here in about 8 years. I think that I'll probably retire in about 8 years, and I'll go do something else. And I don't know what it's going to be. It may be basketball related, or it may not be. But you find somebody and you go and get the tutelage underneath them, and you work hard for them. And then when your time comes, you can roll in to those different type spots. But you're just not going to go and get on a varsity bench and then it happen overnight. It takes some. It's like fine wine, man. I got thrown to the wolves, but I felt like I was prepared because I was prepared by Coach Klingon, in the ins and outs of it. But that, just absorb as much as you can. The game has changed too. High school athletics has changed. There's just a lot of different things that go on that we can get into at a later date. But the biggest thing is just find quality people to be around and just pick their brain on everything that you can do. Ask questions, and meet people, and then It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And if you do right, somebody's going to reward you for it.
Indeed. I think that's the perfect way to end it. Coach, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us and share your advice and your experiences. It means the world to me, and I had a great time sitting down with you. Thank you guys for watching. I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow along with my journey as I pursue a career in sports media. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.